This is The Cut. American whiskey, daily. A squeaky toy just beat Jack Daniels. The Ninth Circuit ruled a parody dog toy called Bad Spaniels doesn't infringe Jack Daniels' trademark, ending a 12-year legal fight the whiskey giant started and just lost. I'm John from Chasing the Unicorn podcast. Here's what moved today, August 17, 2026. Let's start with the number that actually matters for your shelf. Redemption just filed its first bottled-in-bond bourbon, and the math on it is worth your attention. Bottled in bond only requires 4 years of aging. Redemption's release, called Single Barrel Bonded, is hitting 6. 2 extra years at the mandatory 100 proof for $49.99. It's distilled at MGP's Ross and Squibb Distillery in Indiana, then aged and bottled by Redemption's own team down in Frankfort, Kentucky. Here's what makes the filing more than a one-off. It's joining Redemption's ongoing Higher Marks collection, meaning the company is committing shelf space to this long-term, not testing the water with a single limited run. National rollout starts in September, in stores and on reservebar.com. Nothing changes on your shelf yet, but mark the date because it's 6 years of age, foolproof, under $50. This one won't sit long once it lands. Now that bottle is a small story on a big week, because it isn't just one brand quietly filing paperwork. This was a week where 3 companies made decisions that had nothing to do with what's in the bottle and everything to do with who controls it. Start with Beyoncé. 2 years ago, LVMH's Moet Hennessy division launched a rye whiskey with her called Sir Davis, named for her great-grandfather, a Prohibition-era moonshiner. This week, LVMH confirmed it sold its entire stake back to her. Full ownership, full creative control, terms undisclosed. That's a short runway for a luxury conglomerate. Most Moet Hennessy brands run a decade or more before anyone touches the ownership structure. 2 years is a company deciding fast, one way or the other. Then there's Jack Daniels and the 12-year fight I opened with. The Ninth Circuit ruled that a squeaky toy shaped like their bottle, with a label that spoofs Old Number 7, counts as protected parody, not trademark infringement. Brown-Forman spent over a decade defending a bottle shape worth billions against a dog toy and lost. That ruling doesn't touch anything on your shelf today, but it narrows how hard the big spirits companies can come after anyone who plays off their packaging going forward, which is worth knowing if you've ever wondered why so few brands actually sue over knockoffs. And underneath both of those, Discus, the industry's main trade group, just opened registration for a congressional fly-in on September 24th. Distillers heading to Washington to sit down with lawmakers on tariffs and barrel taxes, the kind of policy that eventually shows up as a few extra dollars at the register. Here's my read on all 3. None of this changed a single barrel in a rickhouse this week. It's ownership, litigation, and lobbying, the parts of the business that never touch the whiskey directly, but quietly decide who's steering it and what it'll cost you later. A brand changing hands fast, a trademark getting narrower, and an industry showing up in D.C. before the fall legislative calendar closes. Watch the money and the control, not just the bottle. The bottle's just where it eventually shows up. Now a quick one on a phrase you'll see on that Redemption bottle and plenty of others, bottled in bond. So here's what it is. Back in 1897, whiskey wasn't always what it claimed to be. Some producers cut real bourbon with industrial alcohol and prune extract for color. A distiller named Colonel Edmund Haynes Taylor pushed Congress to fix it, and the Bottled in Bond Act became America's first consumer protection law. To use that label today, a whiskey has to come from one distillery, one distilling season, age at least 4 years in a federally bonded warehouse, and bottle at exactly 100 proof. No marketing spin, just a guarantee of where it came from, how old it is, and how strong it is. What this changes, next time you're staring at a shelf trying to decide between 2 bottles, look for those words on the label. It's not decoration. It's a federal promise, and it usually means you're getting more whiskey for less money. If you're logging pours in the Perfect Pour app, it's available now. Tag a bonded pour in your logbook and watch how often Bottled in Bond comes out on top in your pour print for price to age. Also in this window, one more bottle worth knowing about this week. Chattanooga Whiskey just released the 8th entry in its barrel finishing series, and it's the most ambitious one they've put out. 6 different mash bills, 5 malt whiskeys, and 1 bourbon, blended together, then finished more than a year in casks from one of Moldova's oldest wineries. That's real compositional risk for a finishing release, and it's coming in under $60 at $59.99. It's available at Chattanooga's Experimental Distillery, plus retail in Florida, Georgia, New York, and Texas, and online through sealbox.com. If you've ever wondered what a genuinely unusual cask does to a base whiskey, not just another wine barrel finish, but 6 mash bills and a cask source nobody else is using, this is the one to grab this week while it's still moving. So here's the takeaway. None of today's headline stories involved a single new drop of whiskey being made. They were about who owns it, who can copy it, and who gets a seat at the table when the rules get written. That's usually the boring part of this business, but it's also the part that decides what you're paying and for what, long before it ever reaches your glass. That's The Cut. The full American whiskey industry brief is free every morning at chasingtheunicornpodcast.com. I'm John Schuster. Thanks for joining me. Your unicorn is out there.